Hey again, it's Christina from Sunshine and Flora. If you're new to my channel, I grow cut flowers in Zone 5A in Northwest Iowa, and I document everything here just for fun on my YouTube channel. So today I am inside doing another fun project to get ready for this year's growing season. It is about 5 degrees outside today, so it's fun to be inside doing something. And I'm going to be starting some winter sowing. Now, I do a majority of my seeds starting with the traditional seed trays. I'd say about 95% I do with that, but I do like to do a little winter sowing for fun. Last year I started about 6 to 8 varieties. Some didn't do the best, but two that did do really well for me were Strawflowers and Rudbeckia. So that's what I'm going to be starting today. Now, if you're wondering what kind of flowers work good for winter sowing, I highly recommend picking up the book Cool Flowers. This is by Lisa Mason Ziegler. I picked this up last year and I have read it multiple times and I reference back to it a lot. Strawflowers and Rudbeckia are known as cool flowers, which means they can be planted outside earlier and started earlier. They can take those cool temps in the spring, which is why these work great to start with the winter sowing method. Now, in my region, you could not do things like zinnia or sunflowers with the winter sowing. They would never work, but all of the flowers that are referenced in this book work great with this method. So I will link this down below. I highly recommend it. So anyway, I'm doing Rudbeckia and Strawflowers today, again, because those both worked well for me last year. And I am using milk jugs, which is a very common way to do your winter sowing. It also is free, it's recycling, so it's a great method. The Rudbeckia that I'm starting is the Sahara Rudbeckia. This was my favorite variety that I grew last year, and I'll put a picture up on the screen. But while the Sahara Rudbeckia is not the tallest Rudbeckia that I grew, it was my favorite. It had both single and double flowers, all varieties of colors. So I'm going to be starting just this variety in my milk jug. And then my Strawflower, I'm actually going to throw a mix of varieties in here. Strawflowers this year, I am not growing for cut flower bouquets. I am growing these specifically for dried flower projects that I will be doing in the fall, which that'll be a whole separate video that I'm really excited about. So I have 4 varieties here. I have the Vintage White, I have the Apricot Peach Mix, and then I have the Dragon Fire and the Copper Red. So I'm just gonna throw all 4 of these varieties in this milk jug. So I already have my first milk jug ready to go for my Rudbeckia. And basically what you wanna do is you wanna cut your milk jug in half. I cut it most of the way around and then keep it connected by the handle so that I can easily flip it open and fill it up. But basically you're making like a miniature greenhouse. So when you set these outside, it's not only going to act like a greenhouse to bring that heat in when the temps start warming up, but it's going to keep the moisture inside also. So I cut around with an X-Acto knife. I put 4 holes in the bottom, and then you want to throw the lid away because that's how your moisture is going to get inside. Now, I also learned that I want to label these in a couple different spots because Sharpie does not always last. So I've labeled the top. I'm going to seal it with duct tape, and I'm also going to label the duct tape. Now, you could put a tag inside too if you wanted to, but I think that labeling on the actual milk jug and the duct tape, that's going to be good enough for me. And I only have 2 varieties, so when they start sprouting, I'm probably going to be able to tell what they are anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one cut and ready, and then we'll start filling them and putting the seeds in. Okay, that one is flipping open. Not as good a cut as the other one, but that's all right. Okay, so I'm gonna put 4 holes in the bottom. And when I put these in, I twist it a little bit just to kind of open it up. Okay. Then I'm gonna go ahead and write Strawflower on the top. Okay, pretty legible. Then I'm gonna go ahead and get my first piece of duct tape ready. All right, let that dry. Now last year I used a regular potting mix. I I don't happen to have any on hand right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use my seed starting mix, which will be just fine. It actually might be a little better because it'll let the roots work in with my seeds, but if all you have is regular potting mix, you can definitely go ahead and use that too. And I'm gonna put this in layers. I want it to be a couple inches thick so when those roots start developing, they can work down in there. So I have about a ½ inch in. Now I'm gonna mist it to pre-moisten it. I could pre-moisten this in a bowl before I'm putting it in, but this works well too. All right, let's add a little bit more. Spray it again. I'm gonna do one more layer. So you can see I have a good couple inches of soil in there, which will be plenty for these seedlings. About the same depth as if I was starting them in a seed tray. Now, I'm gonna do the straw flower, and basically you wanna follow the directions on the back of your seed packet as far as how deep the seeds need to go. Okay, so straw flowers require light to germinate, so we don't wanna cover them with any soil. So basically we're just gonna sprinkle these on the top of the soil, and then when they get set outside, that is the light when it warms up enough in the spring that they will germinate from. Now with winter sowing, obviously you don't have to pay attention to the spacing. I don't want to put a huge cluster of them because then I'm just going to have to thin them out a whole bunch. So I do want to kind of space them out a little bit as I put them in here. But this says 9-inch spacing. That is the actual plant when you put it in the soil. That has nothing to do with the seed spacing. So I'm just going to go ahead. I might do, I think 4 rows because I have 4 varieties, and then I'll just sprinkle them along the top of the soil. So again, I'm just sprinkling them on top of the soil. I'm putting 2 seeds per spot. That's usually what I do in cell trays too. And then I can thin them easily later. I'm probably doing more seeds than normal with this one just because I have 4 different varieties. But with winter sowing, you can totally get away with that. As long as you can thin them out, it's okay. This is the apricot peach variety, which is my favorite. So I'm gonna put these in where I have some spaces because I wanna make sure to get as many of these as possible. Okay, the straw flower seeds are all in there, so now all I have to do is mist them in one more time just to settle the seeds into the soil. Then I'm gonna tape these up and I'll get started on my Rudbeckia. This is gonna settle them and kind of adhere them to the soil, but I don't wanna mist it too much that they sink down in and the soil covers them because again, they need light to germinate. But that is one reason you wanna pre-moisten your soil because then it's already settled when you do that. All right, let me tape this up. One more piece of tape. It definitely doesn't look the prettiest, but it works great. So here's the finished product. Let me get my Rudbeckia sown and then I'll show you where I'm gonna put these outside. Okay, both jugs are done. Now the Rudbeckia also needed light to germinate, so I just sprinkled the seeds all over the top of the soil around the whole milk jug. It was only one variety, and so I just scattered it everywhere, and then I misted them in just like the straw flower. So now all we have to do is go set them outside in a nice sunny spot. I'm gonna head out and do that, and I'll show you where they go. All right, so here's where my milk jugs are going to live until the plants are ready to be pulled out and put into the garden. You want to make sure that they have really nice sun exposure and exposure to moisture, because if you get rain or snow this time of year, that is the moisture that's going to water your seeds. Now, our particular area has been really dry lately. We don't even have any snow on the ground, which is very atypical. So I'm going to check them every week and see if I just need to mist them if they need any moisture. But the fact that these are miniature greenhouses will help retain that moisture as well. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing how I do winter sowing. I'll make sure to keep you updated throughout the season when I see them sprouting, and then also transplanting them into my garden. And then watch for a video on my plans for the straw flowers this year. I'm growing a variety of flowers specifically for dried flower projects. So I'll probably have that video up soon along with my entire garden plan for the season. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.